Now we welcome in our Browns insider, Andy Baskin from 92.3 The Fan in Cleveland. Andy, let's start big picture. Hugh Jackson, just one win in the past 2 seasons, but it feels like with all the offseason moves the Browns have made that there's hope around this team for the first time in a while. So what does Jackson need to do on the field to keep his job?
Well, first of all, he's going to jump into Lake Erie on June.
I heard
That's a
that.
big deal. He's going to live up to the bet that he made with the fans, and he said if they didn't win a game last year. So he's already paying off his bets, so hopefully that's a good thing. But for Hugh to keep his job, they have got to win. I think most fans around here will tell you whatever happens in the first 4 games is going to be a huge difference. No one wants to see the Browns, though, fire a coach in the middle of the season next year. That's just a step backwards, and I don't think that's what anyone's hoping to see next year. But I do think he needs Tyrod Taylor, if he's going to start him and stick to his guns, to be effective and give the Browns a chance to win early on in the season. It's interesting to see that there's expectations for the Browns right now, too, that I haven't seen. You look at mock drafts for next year, the Browns aren't #1. In fact, a couple people in the middle of the pack. That is optimism here in Cleveland. So Hugh's going to have a little bit more pressure on him, but they have to win for him to keep his job.
And let's talk about the running back situation. They signed Carlos Hyde. They drafted Nick Chubb in the second round. How do you see that rotation shaking out?
Well, you still have Duke Johnson, too. And I think Duke, in the beginning, I think Carlos and Duke are going to end up sharing a lot of that. Then we'll see what happens with Nick Chubb. The thing I like the most about all 3 of these backs is they've got the ability to not only run the ball, but catch the ball and run the ball, too. So I think they're going to be a little bit more versatile. I think that it's going to be a little bit more fun for the Browns on offense when it comes to coming out of the backfield. You know, Isaiah Crowell was so up and down for the Browns last year that there were times when you were like, okay, what's going to happen? And then Hugh went away from the running game, even though the running game at times would give him 5 yards per carry. So I want to see how Hugh is going to coach and how Hugh is going to try to see how things play out next year, because they've got heavy wide receivers next year, too. At the top, I still think they're lagging, though, when it comes to backup wide receivers and guys that are a little deeper on the depth chart.
Let's talk about positions. You know, you just brought up the lack of depth for wide receiver. Is there a position, and maybe that is it, that you feel like they should have addressed in the offseason, but they didn't?
I wish they would have done a little bit more, especially in free agency with the wide receiver spot, because you're looking at, Corey Coleman, who's coming in, who was a first-round pick, who should have a spot, should be one of the starters on this team. But the big storylines are if he doesn't produce during the preseason or they don't see something out of him in camp, that he may not be around very long. So you've got that. You've got Hollywood Higgins is another guy that's been on this team. You've got some other young guys. But, they've got to figure out a way to make Josh Gordon a viable wide receiver on this team. They've got to be able to get the ball to all the other guys that are there, too. And, they made some offseason moves at wide receiver, but I still feel like the depth at wide receiver, they're one injury away from big problem.
Okay, and before we let you go, Andy, Hugh did say that he's going to donate $100 for whoever jumps in the lake with him. He's going to donate to the charity. So are you going to jump in there with him is the main question.
Well, I don't swim, and I especially don't swim in Lake Erie. Let me just tell you. So I give him $100 for it because I think the cause is good, but you won't see me swimming in Lake Erie anytime soon. I'm lucky to go in the pool down the street.
I don't blame you one bit. Andy Baskin, thank you so much for joining us.